My name is Jacob Sullivan. For 5 years, I hunted something that shouldn't exist. I tracked it through the Ozark wilderness with the obsession of Ahab chasing his whale, convinced that proving its existence would vindicate my brother's death and restore meaning to a life shattered by loss and disbelief. I was a hunter, skilled, patient, methodical. I understood the woods, understood predator behavior, understood how to track and wait. I'd taken deer, bear, mountain lion. I knew what I was doing, or so I thought. The thing I hunted, locals called it the Dogman, though names varied depending on who you asked, had killed my brother Michael in 2018, mauled him during a solo hunting trip, left him torn and broken on a ridgeline in the Boston Mountains. The sheriff ruled it a bear attack, despite evidence that made no sense. Bipedal tracks, claw marks at 7 feet high, witnesses reporting something that walked upright with a canine head. I spent 5 years gathering evidence, setting traps, learning patterns. I became an expert in something the world refused to acknowledge. Then, on November 3rd, 2023, it came to my door. And everything I thought I knew, about hunting, about predators, about justice and revenge, shattered like glass. 2018. The beginning, Michael died on October 12th, 2018. He was 28, an experienced outdoorsman, armed and alert. Whatever killed him was fast, strong, and intelligent enough to attack a prepared human and leave no opportunity for defense. He never fired his rifle. The autopsy showed trauma inconsistent with known wildlife, claw marks suggesting fingers, not paws, bite radius larger than any bear or cougar. The pathologist quietly mentioned anomalies that didn't fit his report but couldn't explain them officially. At the funeral, an old hunter named Vernon approached me. Weathered face, careful eyes, the look of someone carrying uncomfortable knowledge. "Your brother saw something he shouldn't have," Vernon said quietly. "Something old families around here know to leave alone. Dogman, some call it. Been in these mountains long as anyone remembers. Usually it avoids people. When it doesn't, well, I'm sorry about your brother." I dismissed him as a superstitious old man trading in folklore. But over the following weeks, researching Michael's death, I found patterns. Reports going back decades. Sightings of large bipedal canines, livestock kills with unusual characteristics, hunters vanishing, or found dead with injuries blamed on conventional wildlife. Enough pattern to suggest something real. Enough consistency to justify investigation. I quit my job as a civil engineer, sold my house in Little Rock, bought a cabin near Buffalo National River, 15 miles from where Michael died, dedicated my life to finding what killed him. 19. First evidence spent months learning the territory. The Boston Mountains are old, ancient peaks worn down by time, covered in oak hickory forest, riddled with caves and hollows. Perfect habitat for something that wanted to stay hidden. I set up trail cameras across 50 square miles, monitored game trails, documented anomalies, invested in thermal imaging, night vision, audio recording equipment, treated it like a military operation. July 2019, I got my first clear footage. A figure crossing a ridgeline at dusk, approximately 8 feet tall, moving on 2 legs with a distinctive canine profile. The gait was smooth, purposeful, wrong for a bear on hind legs. I studied that footage obsessively, frame by frame, analyzing movement patterns, proportions, behavior. It was real, unknown, but real. 2020. The pattern I began to understand its territory, movements, hunting patterns. It followed the deer herds, tracked the seasonal migrations. It used the same ridgelines repeatedly, avoided human-populated areas, and seemed most active during new moon periods, darkest nights. It was intelligent. It avoided my cameras once it learned their locations. It dismantled my traps without triggering them. It seemed to understand I was tracking it and took measures to stay ahead. This wasn't just an animal. This was something that could reason, plan, adapt. I became more sophisticated in my methods. Remote cameras triggered by heat signatures, audio traps that activated only for specific vocalization frequencies, scent masking to hide my presence. I was learning, but so was it. 2021. Near encounter. November 2021. I finally got close. Tracked it to a cave system in the high country. Fresh tracks, scat, hair samples caught on branches. It was denning there, or using it as a base. I waited 3 days in a blind, downwind, silent, patient. It emerged at dawn on the 4th day. Massive, Dark brown fur, almost black in the early light. The head was distinctly canine, elongated muzzle, erect ears, but the body was wrong. Too upright, too broad through the shoulders. It moved with a predator's confidence, scanning the area before heading downslope. I had it in my rifle scope. Clear shot, center mass, 150 yards. My finger was on the trigger. One squeeze. Proof. Justice for Michael. Vindication. I didn't shoot. Something stopped me. Not conscience. I wanted it dead. But something in how it moved, how it scanned the environment suggested awareness beyond animal instinct. The way it paused, listening, as if it knew something was watching. It looked directly at my blind. Couldn't possibly see me through the camouflage, but looked anyway. Held that position for 30 seconds. Then it moved on, disappearing into the forest. I'd had my shot and taken nothing. The obsession that had consumed 3 years suddenly felt more complicated than simple revenge. 22. Understanding. I shifted approach. Less hunting, more observation. I wanted to understand it, not just kill it. What was it? How did it survive? Was it alone or part of a population? I documented everything. Territory size, approximately 75 square miles. Diet, primarily deer, occasional livestock, opportunistic omnivore. Behavior patterns, solitary, nocturnal preference, highly intelligent. It wasn't a monster. It was an apex predator with near-human intelligence, surviving in the margins between wilderness and civilization. I found its kill sites. Deer processed efficiently, hide and bones left in patterns suggesting ritual or habit. I found its marking trees, scratched at 8 feet high, territory markers like wolves use but more sophisticated. And I found something else. Evidence suggesting it wasn't alone. Different track sizes, different territory patterns overlapping. A population, small, but viable. Point 23. The question. By this year, I'd spent 5 years tracking it. 5 years of my life consumed by this pursuit. I'd become known locally as that crazy Sullivan boy who hunts monsters. Lost most of my savings. Isolated myself from friends, family, normal human connection. The obsession had cost me everything, and I still didn't know what I was trying to achieve. Kill it for revenge? But Michael had entered its territory armed during hunting season. By what moral logic was I the aggrieved party? Prove it existed? To whom? The scientific establishment that dismissed cryptid reports? The public that would turn it into a circus? The more I learned, the more I questioned the righteousness of my hunt. Then, it made the decision for me. November 3rd. 2023. A cold night. First hard freeze of the season. I was in my cabin reviewing footage when I heard it. 3 deliberate strikes on my door. Methodical. Intentional. Knocking. November 3rd, 2023. 9:47 p.m. I froze. Camera footage forgotten. The knock came again. 3 slow, heavy impacts. Not random. Not accidental. Deliberate communication. 5 years hunting it, and now it had come to me. I grabbed my rifle, checked the load, approached the door. Through the window I saw it, standing on my porch, 8 feet of muscle and fur visible in the moonlight. It looked directly at the window, at me, and made a sound, low, rumbling, not quite a growl. Communication, not threat. Every instinct said, don't open the door. Dangerous predator, unknown behavior, potential attack. But 5 years of pursuit had built something between us. Understanding, maybe. Recognition. It could have killed me a dozen times during my tracking. Caught me in the open, ambushed me at my blinds. It never had. Now it was here, presenting itself, vulnerable in a way. Standing at my door. I opened it. We looked at each other across the threshold. Close enough to touch. Close enough to see details I'd only glimpsed through cameras and scopes. The eyes were the most striking feature. Yellow-amber, reflecting light like a wolf's, but with something else behind them. Awareness, intelligence, recognition. It spoke, not words but vocalization with clear intent. A series of sounds, growls, grunts, something almost like syllables. Communicating. I responded instinctively. I don't understand. It tilted its head, remarkably canine gesture, then did something extraordinary. It stepped back from the door, lowered itself to a less threatening posture, and gestured. An unmistakable motion. Follow me. You want me to follow you? A sound. Affirmative somehow. Every tactical bone in my body said this was a trap. Lure the hunter away from safety, attack in the darkness, standard predator behavior. But something else, intuition, desperation, or the madness of 5 years' obsession, made me grab my coat, my flashlight, and step onto the porch. The creature turned and walked into the forest. Not running, not leading me on a chase. Walking, checking back every few yards to ensure I was following. We walked for 30 minutes, deep into territory I knew well. The creature moved with absolute confidence, navigating by moonlight and memory. I followed with my flashlight, struggling to keep pace. Finally, we reached a clearing I recognized, the place where Michael had died. The creature stopped at the exact location, stood there, making soft sounds. Then it did something that broke my understanding of what I was dealing with. It lowered itself to the ground, not in submission, in mourning, the posture of someone at a gravesite, respectful, grieving. It had brought me to my brother's death site, and it was showing remorse. I couldn't finish the sentence, my voice caught. The creature looked at me, made sounds, complex, layered, carrying emotion I couldn't define but recognized. Not quite apology, because animals don't apologize, but acknowledgement, recognition of harm caused, something between regret and explanation. Then it did something else, gestured toward the tree line, made different sounds, urgent, warning, then mimed actions, hiding, running, threat. It took me several minutes to understand. It was showing me what happened. Michael had encountered something else, not this creature, but another threat. The creature had intervened, tried to protect him, but too late. Michael hadn't died from a Dogman attack. He'd died from something else, something that attacked and the Dogman had tried to save him, failed, and carried the guilt of that failure. You tried to help him, I said, understanding flooding through me. You didn't kill him. You tried to save him. A sound, affirmation, relief maybe at being understood. I stood in that clearing, 5 years of revenge-driven obsession crumbling like rotted wood. I'd been hunting the wrong thing, blaming the wrong being, spending my life pursuing justice against something that had tried to prevent the very tragedy I sought to avenge. What killed him? I asked. What were you protecting him from? The creature made sounds I couldn't interpret, but it gestured, deeper into the forest, higher elevations, something else out there, something more dangerous. Then it touched its chest, gestured to me, made a sound that somehow conveyed, we both lost someone we wanted to protect. It was sharing grief, acknowledging shared loss, offering connection across species, across understanding, across the boundary between human and other. I sat down, suddenly exhausted, 5 years of anger and purpose draining away, leaving only emptiness and realization. The creature sat too, across from me, massive and impossible, sharing silence in a clearing where death had happened and misunderstanding had festered. November 3rd, 2023, 11:30 p.m. We stayed in that clearing for over an hour, not speaking. It couldn't really, and I didn't have words for what I was feeling, but existing together, sharing space. Eventually, the creature stood, gestured again, follow. We walked further into the mountains, climbing to higher elevations I'd explored but never fully mapped. Remote country, difficult terrain, the kind of wilderness where even experienced hikers get lost. After 90 minutes of hiking, we reached an area I'd never seen, a hidden valley, protected by ridgelines on 3 sides, with a stream running through it. Natural shelter, abundant game signs isolated, and there I saw them. Others, 3 more, maybe 4 in the shadows. Different sizes, one large like my guide, others smaller. Juveniles, I realized. Young ones, a family group. My guide made sounds toward them. Complex vocalizations, clearly language. The others responded, wary, watching me with reflective eyes. One of the juveniles approached cautiously, maybe 4 feet tall, covered in lighter brown fur with the proportions of an adolescent. It looked at me, then at the adult who'd brought me here. The adult made sounds, explanation, reassurance. The juvenile relaxed slightly. I was being introduced, presented to the family as, what? Not a threat, clearly. Something else. A witness, maybe. Or a connection to the human world that had taken so much from them. The largest of the others approached, female, I thought, based on size and behavior. She circled me slowly, assessing, made sounds toward my guide, questioning. My guide responded with a long vocalization, gestural accompaniment, clearly explaining. At one point, it gestured toward the valley where Michael had died. The female's posture changed. Understanding, sympathy. She made a sound toward me. Different tone. Softer. Acknowledging. You're a family, I said. Understanding crystallizing. This isn't just about you. You have young ones to protect. Territory to maintain. You're trying to survive here, same as any other species. My guide made an affirmative sound. Then the female did something remarkable. She approached closer. Close enough to be dangerous. Close enough to reach out. And she placed one large, clawed hand on my shoulder. Not threatening. Comforting. The gesture of someone offering consolation for loss. I felt tears on my face. First time I'd cried since Michael's funeral. 5 years of anger and obsession and grief finally breaking through. I'm sorry, I said. I've been hunting you. Setting traps. Tracking you. Planning to kill you. For 5 years I've made your life harder. Threatened your family. All because I didn't understand. The female made sounds. Forgiveness, maybe. Or acceptance. Then she gestured toward the juveniles. Toward the valley. Made complex vocalizations that my guide attempted to translate through gesture. They were showing me their life. Their struggle. The difficulty of surviving as an unknown species in shrinking wilderness. The threat from humans who hunted them accidentally or deliberately. The challenge of raising young in territory increasingly encroached upon. They were asking me to understand their perspective, to see them not as monsters or cryptids or mysteries to be solved, but as people, different people, but people nonetheless, trying to live. The juvenile approached again, more confident now, made a sound, almost playful, the universal tone of a young creature testing boundaries. It held out something, a shed deer antler, perfectly intact, a gift. The juvenile was offering me a gift. I took it carefully, respectfully. Thank you, I said, though it couldn't understand the words, but it understood the tone, made a pleased sound, retreated to its mother. My guide gestured toward the moon now high overhead. Late. Time to return. We walked back to my cabin in comfortable silence. At the edge of my property, the creature stopped. I turned to face it. Why did you come to me? Why reveal yourself, your family? I've been hunting you. I'm dangerous to you. It made sounds. Gestured. Explaining something I only partially understood. But the meaning came through. Because isolation and misunderstanding leads to tragedy. Because Michael's death happened from fear and lack of communication. Because remaining hidden meant remaining vulnerable to repeated tragedy. It had taken a risk. Trusted me with knowledge of its existence, its family, its territory. Gambled that understanding would replace hostility. I won't hunt you anymore, I said. And I won't tell anyone about you. You're safe from me. The creature made a sound. Gratitude. Relief. Then it did something that stunned me. It spoke. Actual words. Heavily accented. Barely recognizable. But English. Thank you. 2 words. Proof of intelligence beyond question. Evidence of cultural transmission. Of learned language, of cognitive capability rivaling human. You can speak, I whispered. It made sounds, acknowledging but also indicating limitation. Speech wasn't natural, required effort. Vocabulary was minimal, but possible. Learned from exposure to humans over generations of hiding and listening. What should I call you, I asked. Do you have a name? It made a sound, its own language, unpronounceable. Then approximated. Coda. Coda. I'm Jacob. Jacob. The word came out rough but clear. We stood there, human and Dogman, speaking each other's names, acknowledging personhood across the divide of species. Then Coda turned and disappeared into the forest, moving with that impossible silent grace. I went inside, sat at my table surrounded by 5 years of evidence and obsession, and understood that everything had changed. November 4th, 2023. Morning woke to find something on my porch. A haunch of venison, expertly butchered, left in a clean cloth I recognized from my outdoor gear. Coda had returned while I slept, left food, a gift, or payment, or simply an acknowledgement of connection. I spent the morning reviewing everything I'd learned. 5 years of evidence suddenly recontextualized. Not hunting a monster, tracking a person, not seeking revenge, pursuing someone innocent of the crime I'd blamed them for. The real question, what now? November 5th, 2023, Coda returned. This time in daylight. Bold move, suggesting trust. We sat on my porch, attempting communication. I showed pictures, Michael's photo, pointed to it, then to myself. Brother. Coda made sounds, pointed to the photo, To me, understanding, family relation. I gestured toward the valley where Michael died. What killed him? Coda's response was complex. Gestures toward the high country, sounds suggesting something larger, more aggressive. Not their kind. Something else. Another creature? Different species? Affirmative sounds. The Ozarks held more than one cryptid species. The Dogman, Coda's people, were relatively peaceful, avoiding conflict. But something else hunted these mountains. Something more dangerous. Have they killed others? Other humans? Coda nodded. Human gesture. Learned. Made sounds indicating yes occasionally. When humans ventured too deep, too isolated. Can you protect people, warn them? Complex response. Coda gestured. Protection meant exposure. Warning meant revealing existence. Both risked their survival. The ethical calculus was brutal. Coda's people could potentially save human lives by warning hikers away from dangerous areas. But doing so would reveal their existence, leading to human response. Hunting, research, displacement. Their survival depended on remaining unknown. So you choose your own survival over human lives, I said. Coda's response surprised me. Sounds of distress, disagreement, then gestures explaining. They do protect when possible. Michael's death, Coda had tried, but subtly, without revealing themselves, guiding hikers toward safety through indirect means, making noises that discouraged dangerous paths, removing trail markers that led into hazardous territory. They were protecting humans while staying hidden, doing what they could without sacrificing their own existence. But it's not enough, I said. People still die. Coda made sounds, affirmative, then gestured the question back to me. What should they do? Reveal themselves and lose everything? Or remain hidden and accept occasional tragedy? I had no answer. The moral weight of that question was crushing. November 8th, 2023. 3 days of daily visits. We'd developed a communication system. Gestures, simple words, mutual understanding building gradually. I learned about their world. The population across the Ozarks was small, maybe 50 individuals, spread across hundreds of miles. Family groups maintained territories, avoided each other except during breeding season. Lifespan was long. Coda was at least 40 years old by my estimation. Reproduction was slow, one offspring every 5 to 7 years. They were critically endangered by any conservation metric. Human encroachment, habitat loss, occasional hunting deaths. 1 generation from extinction, maybe 2. You need protection, I said. Legal recognition, habitat preservation, hunting prohibition. Coda's response was vehement. No. Recognition meant study. Study meant control. Control meant end of freedom, end of their way of life. But you're dying out. Your people won't survive another 50 years without help. Coda made sounds indicating acceptance. Better to die free than live controlled. Better to vanish than become human property. The same calculus I'd heard from somewhere. This reasoning felt familiar. What if there was another way? I asked. What if I could protect you without revealing you? Create buffer zones, discourage human access, without anyone knowing why? Coda tilted its head. Interested. Skeptical. November 10th, 2023. Spent 2 days developing a plan. I couldn't protect them through official channels that required disclosure, but I could work around the edges. As a former engineer, I had connections. Environmental assessment firms, conservation organizations, local government. I could influence land use decisions indirectly. Presented the plan to Coda. Key points. Identify critical habitat areas. Create wildlife corridors protecting those areas from development. Discourage hiking, hunting in dangerous zones through infrastructure decisions. Monitor threats and warn Coda's people. All without revealing their existence. Coda listened, then made sounds toward the forest. 3 others emerged. The female I'd met, another adult, one of the juveniles. Family council. They communicated in their language. Complex, rapid, clearly debating. I caught tension, disagreement, uncertainty. Finally, Coda turned to me, made sounds, then struggled with English. Why, help, not your people, because Michael would want me to, and because it's right. Your people. Different people, but people. You deserve to survive. The female made sounds, questioning my motives. Could I be trusted? What did I gain? Coda responded, gestured toward me, toward the valley where Michael died. Explaining our connection, the shared grief, the transformation from hunter to ally. The group conferred again. Then together they made sounds. Agreement. They would accept my help, trust me with their survival. The weight of that responsibility was staggering. November 15th, 2023 started implementing the protection plan. First step, mapping critical habitat. CODA took me through their territory over 3 days, showing denning sites, water sources, primary hunting grounds, dangerous areas. I documented everything. GPS coordinates, topographic features, ecological characteristics, but kept it encrypted, accessible only to me. The territory overlapped with federal land, state forest, and private holdings. Complicated jurisdiction, but also opportunity. Multiple agencies, multiple decision points, multiple chances to influence without drawing attention. November 20th, 2023 filed environmental assessment requests with 3 different agencies, highlighting sensitive wildlife habitat requiring protection. No mention of what species, just generic conservation language that triggers protective protocols. The bureaucracy worked in our favor. Agencies defaulted to caution, restricting access pending review. November 25th, 2023 encountered a problem. Hunter named Dale Pritchard, local who'd been exploring territory deeper than usual. Too close to the family group's primary denning area. I found him at a trail bar in town, bought him a beer, casually mentioned that area had been problematic lately. Friend of mine saw what looked like a rabid bear up there, acting aggressive, unpredictable. Might want to avoid it until Fish and Game can investigate. The lie worked. Dale decided to hunt elsewhere, but the interaction disturbed me. I was manipulating people now, feeding false information to protect a secret. Where did reasonable conservation end and unethical deception begin? December 2nd, 2023. CODA brought me to meet the elder of their people, an ancient female, nearly 9 feet tall, fur silver white with age. She moved slowly, with evident pain, but carried herself with unmistakable authority. She examined me with eyes that had seen decades, maybe longer. Then she spoke. More English words than CODA had managed. Learned long ago from some forgotten interaction. Your brother. Good man. Tried. Help. We mourn. His loss. You knew Michael? Watched him. Many seasons. He. Respected forest. Left offerings. Animals killed. Spoke kindly. We. Liked him. Michael had been feeding them. Unknowingly perhaps, but the pattern clicked. He'd always left gut piles from his kills in consistent locations. Claimed it was for the scavengers. But he'd been feeding CODA's people. Establishing relationship without realizing it. What killed him? I asked directly. The elder's expression darkened. Makwat. The cruel ones, not like us, not people, true monsters. They kill for pleasure, we hunt for food, they hunt for blood. How many Makwat are there? Few. 3, maybe 4. Higher mountains. They come, sometimes. We avoid. But humans, go to them, not knowing, and die. Can they be stopped? Can be killed. But dangerous. Very dangerous. We lose 2 of our people, trying to drive them out. Why don't you leave? Find safer territory. This is home. Our families, buried here. Our history, here. We do not abandon home. We defend. The elder placed her hand on my head, gesture of blessing or acknowledgement. You change. Come hunting. Death. Now bring help. This is good. Your brother would be proud. I felt that weight again. Michael's legacy wasn't my revenge. It was this. Protecting the beings he'd unknowingly befriended. Honoring his respect for the wilderness through action he never got to take. December 10th, 2023 discovered something that changed everything. Reviewing old missing persons reports from the region, I found a pattern. 17 disappearances in the high country over the past 12 years. Most ruled as lost hikers, presumed dead, never found. But the locations clustered, all within a 5-mile radius of the highest peaks in this section of the Ozarks. Makwat territory. The creatures the elder described weren't just dangerous to CODA's people. They were serial killers by human standards. 17 lives minimum. Probably more never reported. I had information that could save human lives. Warn hikers, close areas, prevent deaths. But using that information meant revealing how I knew. Meant exposing CODA's people to scrutiny and danger. The moral choice was impossible. Protect the dogmen who'd done nothing wrong, or protect humans who were walking unknowingly into death zones? I presented the dilemma to CODA. I know where the dangerous things are. I could warn people, save lives, but it might expose you. CODA's response was immediate. Warn them. Human lives matter. We hide better. But humans must know danger. You'd risk your people's safety to save human strangers? Yes, because is right. Life is sacred. All life. The ethics of a supposedly primitive species putting human life over their own survival shamed me. December 15, 2023, anonymously contacted the Forest Service with warnings about dangerous wildlife activity in the high country. Sent evidence, photos of claw marks, descriptions of aggressive behavior, partial tracks, enough to trigger concern without revealing source or specifics. The service responded by closing 3 popular trails pending investigation. Local outcry was immediate. December 18, 2023, called to a community meeting at the ranger station. Local hunters, guides, business owners angry about closures. Based on what evidence, they demanded. Anonymous reports aren't sufficient for shutting down public land. I stayed silent in the back, watching the conflict I'd created. Vernon, the old hunter who'd first told me about Dogman, caught my eye. After the meeting, he approached. "You know something," he said quietly, "about what's really out there, don't you?" I couldn't lie to him. "Yes." "The good ones or the bad ones?" "Both." He nodded slowly. "Old families around here we've known for generations. 2 kinds in these mountains. The walkers, they're people, strange people, but people, don't hurt nobody unless provoked. Then there's the hunters, nasty pieces of work, kill for sport, can't be reasoned with. You've known all along." "Son, my grandfather saw one in 1947. My father tracked them in the 70s. I've had my own encounters. We don't talk about it because talking brings attention. Attention brings trouble. For them and us. So what do I do?" Vernon considered. "You're trying to protect them both, aren't you? The walkers and the tourists who don't know better." "Yes. Can't be done perfectly, but you can minimize damage. Keep the walkers hidden, warn folks away from the hunters without explaining why. Let people think it's bears or cougars. Better they're scared of the wrong thing than knowing the truth." December 22, 2023, trail closures held despite protests. I'd provided enough evidence, carefully curated, suggesting aggressive bears to keep the service cautious. But pressure was building. Local congressmen got involved, demanding review of policies. Media coverage increased. The more attention it received, the greater the risk of someone investigating thoroughly enough to find the real answer. December 28, 2023, Dale Pritchard, the hunter I'd warned off, went missing, ignored the closures, hiked into the forbidden zone, never came back. Search and rescue found his campsite, signs of struggle, blood. They found him 3 days later, dead, mauled, massive trauma. The service wanted to call it a bear attack. I knew better. Makwat had killed him. The exact tragedy I'd tried to prevent. January 3, 2024, attended Dale's funeral. His wife, his kids, his parents, grieving a death that might have been prevented if I'd been more explicit in my warnings. If I'd revealed the true danger instead of hiding behind euphemisms about aggressive wildlife. Was protecting Coda's people worth Dale Pritchard's life? The question haunted me. January 8, 2024, met with Coda at the usual spot. Someone else died. The Makwat killed another human. Coda made sounds of distress. Then we tracked him, tried to scare him back. But Makwat, faster. We arrived. Too late. You tried to save him? Yes. Always try. But cannot save all. Cannot be everywhere. What if we hunted the Makwat, killed them, removed the threat permanently? Coda's response was complex. Explaining, Makwat were incredibly dangerous. Killing them required multiple hunters, coordinated effort, willingness to accept casualties. Coda's people were few. Couldn't risk losing more. What if I helped? Human weapons, human tactics combined with your knowledge? Coda looked at me for a long moment. Then, you would fight for us? Kill? To protect? I came to these mountains to avenge my brother by killing you. Maybe I can actually avenge him by killing the things that actually caused his death, and prevent more deaths like Dale's. January 10, 2024, presented the plan to the family group. Hunt the Makwat. 3 or 4 of them against however many we could mobilize. Dangerous, probably some would die, but potentially removing a persistent threat. The debate among them was intense. The elder spoke at length, words I couldn't understand but tone suggesting caution. The younger ones seemed more willing. Finally, consensus. They would do it. One coordinated hunt, humans and Dogman together, attempting something neither group could accomplish alone. We began preparing for war. January 20th, 2024 planning phase. Koda's people provided intelligence on Makwat territory, behavior, patterns. I provided weapons, rifles for myself, reinforced spears and blades for the dogmen who wouldn't use guns. The hunting party, myself, Koda, the other adult male, named something like Nashota, and the elder despite her age. The female stayed behind to protect the juveniles. We moved out at dawn, climbing toward the high peaks where Makwat maintained their territory. January 21st, 2024 found the first Makwat den, mid-morning. Cave entrance obscured by fallen timber, marked with the scattered remains of kills. Human items among the debris, backpacks, boots, identification cards, evidence of at least 8 human victims, probably more. This wasn't animal predation. This was serial murder. We set up positions around the cave entrance. Waited. The Makwat emerged at dusk. I need to describe it carefully because it was different from Koda's people. Larger, maybe 9 feet, with darker fur and a more aggressive stance. The face was crueler somehow, flatter with pronounced fangs and eyes that held malice rather than intelligence. It saw us immediately. No surprise, no fear, just aggression. It charged. The coordinated attack we'd planned dissolved into chaos. The Makwat was faster than expected, stronger, vicious. It went for Nashota first, recognizing him as the primary threat. Claws raked across his shoulder, drawing blood. I fired. Hit center mass, a shot that should have dropped anything living. The Makwat staggered but kept coming. Koda and the elder attacked from the flanks, driving spears into its sides. The Makwat roared, a sound that froze my blood, and wheeled on Koda, catching him across the chest. I fired again, and again, 5 shots total, all hitting. The Makwat finally went down, thrashing, dying. But we heard sounds from the cave. More than one. At least 2 others. They emerged together, coordinating their attack. Intelligent pack tactics, designed to overwhelm. The next minutes were violence and desperation. The elder went down, her leg savaged. Nashota fought despite his wounds. Koda protected me while I reloaded. I fired until my rifle was empty, then drew my pistol. Kept firing. The Makwat were tough, absorbed damage that would kill anything natural, but they could be killed. Finally, silence. 3 Makwat dead. Our group wounded, bleeding, but alive. We checked the cave, found evidence of a 4th Makwat. Tracks leading deeper into passages we couldn't follow. 1 had escaped, but 3 were dead. The immediate threat reduced. January 22nd, 2024 made it back to the family group's territory. The female treated wounds. They have remarkable knowledge of herbal medicine. Nashota would survive but needed weeks to heal. The elder's leg was broken but would mend. Koda pulled me aside. You fought. For us. Bled. For us. You are pack now. Family. I fought because it was right. Those things were killers. They needed to be stopped. Most humans would not see difference. Would kill. All of us. But you, no difference. This makes you rare. January 25th, 2024, search and rescue reported finding 3 abnormally large bear carcasses in the high country. Unusual, but not unprecedented. Official explanation: bears that had become aggressive due to disease, subsequently killed by wildlife management. Close enough to the truth to be acceptable. No one questioned it. The trail closures were lifted. The danger zone, while not eliminated, was significantly reduced. Dale Pritchard would still be alive if I'd acted sooner, but others would live because we'd acted at all. February 1st, 2024, Koda brought me back to the clearing where Michael had died. We'd been there before, but this time felt different. Final, Koda spoke. Your brother did not die. Meaningless. His death brought you. You brought protection. You saved our people. His death had purpose. I wanted to believe that. Wanted to think Michael's death led to something good rather than just being random tragedy. Maybe it had. Maybe this strange alliance, this impossible partnership between human and dogman, was Michael's legacy. Thank you, I said, for trusting me, for letting me help, for teaching me that hunting isn't always about killing. Koda made sounds, gratitude, kinship, then spoke words I'll never forget. You came to hunt, but became protector. This is evolution of spirit. Your brother would be proud. We are proud. You are pack. March 15th, 2024. Present day. 4 months since Koda knocked on my door. 4 months since everything I believed about hunting, about justice, about the nature of intelligence and personhood was transformed. I still live in my cabin in the Ozarks, but I'm not hunting anymore. I'm protecting, stewarding, serving as a bridge between worlds that shouldn't be able to coexist but do. The environmental protections are in place. Critical habitat protected through bureaucratic channels that hide the real reason. Coda's people are safer than they've been in decades. I see them regularly, not daily. They value their independence, their wildness, but often enough to maintain connection. The juveniles are growing, learning. The wounded have healed. New life is coming. The female is pregnant, first birth in this family group in 6 years. They're surviving, slowly rebuilding, not out of danger, never truly safe in a world where humans encroach constantly, but more secure than before. What I've learned: intelligence comes in forms we don't expect. Personhood isn't defined by human characteristics. Dignity exists across species boundaries. Coda's people are not human, but they're people, with families, culture, language, ethics, love. They grieve their dead. They protect their young. They make sacrifices for others. In every way that matters. They're more than animals. And recognizing that means accepting uncomfortable truths about how we treat the non-human world. Michael's legacy. My brother died trying to help, though he never knew what he was helping. His respectful presence in the forest, his offerings of food, his gentle passage through their territory, these things built trust that eventually saved his brother and protected an entire species. That's legacy. Not monuments or accolades, but ripples of kindness that propagate beyond death. The choice: I could still reveal them. I have evidence, knowledge, access. One phone call to the right researcher, and the world would know. But I won't. Because I've learned what they've always known. Some beings deserve to exist beyond human knowledge. Some mysteries serve the world better unsolved. They trusted me with their survival. I'll honor that trust until I die. The cost: Vernon died last month. Heart attack, natural causes, age 78. He was the last of the old families who'd known about Coda's people and kept the secret. At his funeral, his grandson approached me. "Grandpa left you something." It was Vernon's journal. Decades of observations, encounters, wisdom about living alongside the unknown. His final entry was addressed to me. "Jacob, you came to hunt and learn to protect. That's the evolution your brother started and you completed. The old families are dying out. Someone needs to carry the knowledge forward. Guard them well. They're worth more than any secret you'll ever keep. I'm that guardian now. Keeper of impossible knowledge. Protector of beings that shouldn't exist. Living in the space between truth and necessary fiction. Final truth: I spent 5 years hunting something I didn't understand, driven by grief and rage and the human need for vengeance. Then it came to my door one night, vulnerable and trusting, and taught me that real strength isn't in the hunt. It's in the choice not to hunt. Coda spoke my name in the darkness and in doing so asked a question: "What kind of human will you be?" I answered by becoming something else. Not quite human anymore, not quite Dogman, something between. A guardian standing at the boundary, protecting the space where impossible things survive. The Ozarks hold secrets. I'm one of them now, and I'm content with that. Some stories end not with revelation, but with the choice to keep silence. This is that story. The hunt is over. The protection continues, and the mountains remember those who understand that true wisdom isn't knowing everything. It's knowing what should remain unknown.